Individuals living in poor and disenfranchised communities have a harder time finding and affording healthy options due to a lack of resources in these areas that are considered to be food deserts.
I don't think this was an accident, not to build grocery stores in this area because the people here, it's not just about black people, it's about poor people.
Route A4, destination.
Tony is one of more than 23.5 million Americans who live in a neighborhood which the USDA calls a food desert. That means they have limited access to healthy, fresh, and affordable food. For Tony, getting groceries requires traveling 2 miles with the help of 2 buses. It takes 40 minutes each way. It's a struggle to get there, especially when you're 71 and have to carry a week's worth of groceries back home without a car.
Joining us this evening with more on this topic is NNV Weekly contributor Nina Shabazz. Greetings, sister. Welcome back.
Greetings. How are you this evening?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
It's great. So let's hop right into it. So for those who might not know what the term food desert means, can you provide a brief description?
Sure. It's basically what she was describing in the segment, the previous segment, that's saying that a lack of healthy and fresh food options, which includes fruits and vegetables, and for those who consume meat, fresh meat and poultry, and that sort of thing. And so our options are very limited. And as you saw in the clip, they have to travel outside of their neighborhood in order to get a decent option or selection of foods. And so they call them food deserts just because of the sheer deprivation and options, that are limited to, that Black and brown residents are limited to.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Myself, I've also lived in areas where it was a food desert, and I've lived in areas where there were nutritious. Sorry, nutrient rich. That's the word.
Right.
Nutrient rich markets everywhere, and so I've definitely seen both sides of the spectrum. And have you ever lived in areas where there was a food desert?
I have growing up, in the hood, as many of our people have grown up. I will say this. So, I grew up in a very nutrient-rich soil-producing state, which is Florida, which produces everything. And so, most people had fruits and vegetables growing in their yards, and so we could literally go. I had an orange tree, grapefruit tree, plum tree. You could exchange with your neighbor. Hey, I have some bananas, and so, it's one of those things that we didn't, in terms of nutritious, and, fruits and varieties, we had an abundance. So I will say I'm actually, I was fortunate living in a quote unquote, immigrant slash, Black and brown community where people came from the islands, Puerto Rico,
Right.
Jamaican, and they grew their own foods. And so, when we did have, fruits and vegetables, we did have an abundance, but we did actually drive outside of our neighborhood, to the grocery store for the good stuff, so to speak.
Interesting, because I do remember as well back in my hometown, Bermuda, we would have various amounts of fruit trees to our discretion as well. But for other states and neighborhoods that don't have that um, privilege, food insecurity is a growing threat to them. So why is there so many food deserts in Black and brown communities across America?
Well, going back to the previous slide, it's a matter of it was designed purposely that way. And when you look at the production cost that goes into foods and that sort of thing, Black and brown communities aren't considered. I guess the word I'm looking for is having that expendable income to spend the additional money to pay for the quality of foods that, so many of our other counterparts receive. And so there's actually food delivery trucks, they deliver by zip code. And, your chicken is not the same chicken that, in a certain zip code as you would, if you compare it to a lower income neighborhood. Even if you have the same grocery store,
Right.
your quality is lacking. And I've actually spoken to some of these food delivery truck drivers, and they have said you can get terminated for distributing food outside of a particular zip code. And so
Wow.
it is really by design, and it's at a detriment on purpose, to the Black and brown folks. Bottom line is just our health is not a priority. And so that's why you have people traveling outside of their jurisdictions, because they realize the quality lacks in their neighborhood store.
Right. Wow. And that's interesting, because I had my first experience with that, or I recognized it with my first experience whenever I went to we have Kroger's out here. So whenever I went to a Kroger's grocery store out here in Texas, in a wealthier area, they had seeded grapes. But
Right.
back where I was living at, we didn't have seeded grapes. And
Right.
when I recognized that, I was taking the time out to pay attention to the stock for at least that whole year, because I wanted to know, am I missing out on the stock, or do we just never get seeded grapes? And the whole year that I paid, and even till now, we never receive seeded grapes, seeded watermelons, or higher quality produce. So I definitely recognize that myself. And going back to what you were saying about our health not being a priority, then why are there an abundance of fast food restaurants in these food deserts?
Because cheap and processed food is it's easy to make. It costs nothing to make. You can put so many different fillers in it and call it food. When you go out of the country, you travel out of the country, not too long ago, Ireland, they labeled, I believe it was a bun or the bread from Subway. They said this is not considered bread in our country. And
Wow.
they did not allow bread to come. And so when you go outside of the United States, you see a lot of countries having a severe backlash against allowing things to be imported from the United States, because the health of their citizens are at a much higher priority, as opposed to the almighty dollar cutting costs and just making a profit. And so when you start to look at other countries banning U.S. products and calling our products that we call food, this is not food. This is a product. Even when you look at the sliced cheese, this individually wrapped, it says cheese product, and so it's not called cheese. And so when you look at other countries that have effectively disallowed our products from entering into their country, then that there's not just a problem with the Black and brown community. It's the American people whose health is suffering overall.
Right. It's true. Even with the juice, when you look at the package, it will say 10% made with 10% juice, or 5%
and 90% sugar,
and then be 90% sugar and water, and that's about it. And with these cutting of the costs and producing all of this highly processed foods and serving it to the people, what are some of the health consequences of living in a food desert?
Well, I mean, we saw, this really come to fruition even during the pandemic last year, of all of the existing conditions that have laden Black people, diabetes, heart disease, cancer, and that's just a short list. And so we know that obesity carries with it a death sentence, a quicker death sentence. And so when you look at an impoverished community, you look at the poor food choices that are available, you look at quick conveniences, you look at things that we do to pacify some of the things that we suffer through: alcohol, extra sugar consumption. Sugar is a drug. It's highly addictive.
Absolutely.
And so when you look at those things, and they just kind of compound and kind of create a layer cake of health problems. And
Hmm.
so those are the consequences of having a food desert. You don't have quality of life or health.
Right. We've identified these problems and we've spoken about the consequences to these problems. So, what is the response to tackling this huge problem? What can we do about it?
Well, you have a lot of people who are being quite inventive. You have people starting to grow. You start to see a lot more Black farmers coming to, starting to farm. You see a lot more Blacks going to farmers markets, and you even see farmers markets accepting the EBT cards that a lot of our lower income
Mm.
families receive. And so I think that all around, you see people making healthier choices. You see people, skipping meat and cutting meat and things like that out of their diet as a way to combat some of the
Mhm.
health issues that they suffer.
Yeah, absolutely. And real quick, what are some programs and other services that you believe can help combat food insecurity and promote more self-sufficiency?
Right. So I think, if we continue to take control, there's a lot more community gardens that are popping up as a response to having the need and the demand for fresh fruits and vegetables. Community gardens are a really good answer that we can use. Even if we live in an apartment, if you have a balcony, you can always just get a few pots and start growing your own food. So you can have, fresh fruits, herbs, and those sorts of things, literally right at your fingertip. And so you'll see the true farm to table, really come into fruition.
Well, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. For right now, let us pause for announcements from our sponsors. And then when we return with some information on those combat food deserts, we'll be right back.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.
Worldwide, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Download the Final Call Radio app and take us everywhere. On your phone, on your computer, on your tablet, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also log on to finalcall.com and click the Listen Live button or finalcallradio.com. Final Call Radio, the official voice of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam.
Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel at National Network View. I am Nina Shabazz Muhammad with nnvnews.com.
As the push for a healthier lifestyle arises in society, people are looking for the best plant-based vegan foods made with high-quality ingredients, and at least one Black-owned restaurant located in Rochester, New York, is doing that. Back with us is Nina Shabazz. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So, is this establishment vegetarian?
It's not vegetarian. It's completely vegan, which means it's completely plant-based.
Wow.
Fruits, vegetables, hand cut potatoes, actual potatoes being peeled, sliced,
Hmm.
cut, seasoned, and prepared right there in the store. And so they have the highest quality of fruits, not fruits, but vegetables going into their dishes, and each dish is seasoned and made with love. So,
Wow.
yeah, it's plant based, it's vegan. So there's no dairy from any animals or anything like that. There is everything that they make, including the cheese that's on the hamburgers, is plant based.
Wow. So no milk, no animal byproducts whatsoever.
Whatsoever.
Wow. And what's the name of this establishment?
This establishment is called Allah's Kitchen. And so just the name of itself, it kind of edifies how we should be eating, how we
Hmm.
should, treat ourselves in terms of consuming the best that we produce. We
Hmm.
know that the meat is not a healthy option for us. Even in our books that we have, How to Eat to Live, it tells us that fruits and vegetables are best.
That's right. It's absolutely right. And how long has this restaurant been in operation? And how long? How did it all get started?
It's been in operation since 2019, so about 2.5 years, 3.5 years at this point, I believe. And so
Hmm.
it's been thriving, and I think it was a well needed answer to the prayers of a lot of the people in Rochester, and it is
Sure.
the only Black owned vegan restaurant in the city of Rochester.
Wow. And so, we just had a conversation about food deserts. Is Rochester, New York, one of those type of communities?
Well, I think any community that has a Black and brown population, you will have a food desert. When you
Hmm.
go outside into some of the more affluent communities, you'll see that they have a much larger selection in terms of fruits and vegetables, because the community demands it. And so I
Hmm.
think that we have gotten complacent in terms of how we have allowed people to treat us, that we haven't demanded more. We elect city officials and a lot of these do nothing politicians, and we essentially have tolerated some of the worst treatment. And so that's why you see a lot of our communities in the conditions that they're in.
Yeah, that's right. You said that this establishment was like an answer to the prayers of the people in that community. So why is it important to open the establishment there?
Well, because I think that when you have a noble idea, to you look around and you see that there are a lack of options. The
Mm.
proprietor of this particular establishment, he had a vision of bringing some of the best foods to um, the people of Rochester. And so I
Mhm.
think that once you start, with your vision, it kind of takes a life of its own. Just
Yeah.
today, he had a customer appreciation day where he gave out free food,
Mm.
and people approached him with tears in their eyes and say, "You
Wow.
don't understand how this meal has impacted my life for today. You don't
Wow.
understand what you mean to this community." And so I think that when we have a vision to do something for the community, it does take a life of its own. And so it's evident in the community comments. It's evident in the reviews that this is an answer to many people prayers in the city of Rochester.
Wow, that's beautiful. For the people out there in the community to, show their gratitude for his work and to express how, his work and his food has really impacted them. I just can't imagine the type of energy that's flowing throughout that community with that establishment there. What are a few examples of the products and healthy foods that are provided?
Well, there is there's a veggie burger, not veggie burger, but it's the plant-based burger. There is a culture bowl that has uh, the the vegetables that you saw. They make their own. Seitan is a type of you can, it's a wheat product, and you can make it have the texture of meat. And so for those who do not eat soy, because soy does throw up the, your hormones, um, people do look for different alternatives for their protein. And so seitan, they actually make it themselves from scratch in the store. And so when I say it's a from scratch establishment, it literally is from scratch, and you would be hard pressed to find a restaurant that has fresher food.
Wow. Absolutely. And, our people seem to be hungry, if you will, pun intended,
Right,
for better
right.
quality food and better nutrition, and more are turning to healthier lifestyles that forego meat and other traditional foods that cause health problems in the Black community. Are you noticing this trend?
I am noticing this trend. I follow a lot of different food pages. I'm a bit of a foodie myself. Haven't quite made the complete leap to veganism. I do stay to more of a vegetarian lifestyle. So because I do still have my guilty pleasure of ice cream, and so I like salmon. But I do see that a lot of especially in when you look at our community, more of our people are starting to do garden clubs. And so I think that, when you look at the success of an Allah's Kitchen, when you look at the success of, there's an establishment in Atlanta, I don't want to use the name, but it's called Slutty Vegan.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Sorry, it's a little harsh on the on our listeners, but she has lines that are wrapped around the building. And so I think that what we're seeing is that this is not just a fad. I think a lot of our people are really starting to take their health a lot more seriously. You start to see a lot more Black-owned yoga studios that are coming. You start to see a lot more, so I think our people in general are just really understanding that, health is wealth. I mean, health is the wealthiest thing that you can have. And once your health deteriorates, you're no good to anyone or yourself. So I think that, the best thing to do is to preserve your health, as opposed to the costlier intervention of having to repair it once it's gone.
No, absolutely. And, you mentioned about our people are really beginning to understand that health is wealth, and that if they deteriorate and fade away, then it means nothing. We mentioned before that we've gotten so complacent with being treated the way that we're being treated, and having the restaurants and the markets that we have in our communities. Do you feel like, Black people opening up these vegan restaurants and making it taste better, and that is kind of causing people to start to demand more from our community leaders?
Absolutely. Even when you look at the fact that, at one point, this, people were looking at veganism as kind of maybe, a fad or something like that, or something that will kind of fade away in popularity. It has proved to only grow in terms of popularity, because I think that people demand it. And so once you see a lot more establishment, I mean, when you see chain restaurants such as TGI Fridays offering Beyond Meat burgers and stuff like that, yeah. I think they see that this is the public has spoken. And so I think that when you see this trend continue, you start to see celebrities come in, people of notoriety come in and support these establishments. That's Umar Johnson, that's actually that visited Allah's Kitchen and had an event there. You start to see that our people in general really value their health. And so, there's the old saying that people vote with their feet. And so in this case, people are voting with their forks. And so they're choosing health over the status quo.
Absolutely. And I feel like, people are just not used to change. And now that they have been exposed to healthier options that also taste very good, they realize that they can eat better, they can eat well, and it doesn't have to be a salad every day. So now they're finally taking the initiative to attack their health with better food options. And, you know, restaurants as well are just a hard business to establish and thrive in. So with these people, or with our people finally taking that initiative, what has been the response from the community?
Well, you know, there's some images also, and I think if we can add the clip to hit the Facebook page, there have been lines down the sidewalk during the pandemic in order to get this food. And so, you know, I think that, like I was telling you, the response has been overwhelming. When he had a customer appreciation day, you know, there were people, you know, just waiting for hours. And, you know, like I said, people were coming up with tears in their eyes and saying, you don't understand what this restaurant means to the community. And so the response has been overwhelming, and for the staff and for the community. And so I think you're only going to see a continuation and a surge in the demand for these kinds of food, because, you know, who doesn't want to eat healthier foods that really taste good and prolong their health? It's a win-win all around.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We definitely have to strive to eat to live. And, you know, as we're eating to live, it doesn't have to be boring. It can definitely taste good. But I definitely want to thank you, Sister Nina, for joining us tonight and taking the time out to have this discussion on these two very important conversations that we need to have. I'm sure that I was definitely enjoying our conversation. I'm sure our listeners were too. So thank you again for joining us tonight.
You're very welcome. It was my pleasure.
Have a good night. Thank you for joining us today and tuning into National Network View. Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel, NNV News. This is Tariq X with National Network View News. I wish you all peace, blessings, and well-being. Good night.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps to combat false media. Cash App, NNV News.
Asiatic Minds, online education, helping our children to discover their God-given skills, gifts, talents, and passion that will allow them to see their greatness as well as the greatness of our people. And upon discovering that greatness, infusing them with the desire to use it for the betterment of themselves, their families, our people, and the world. Classes begin September 1st. To enroll, visit AsiaticMinds.com.
This is Sister Sajda Muhammad. We are proud to announce that the Sajda House commemorative Elijah coins are finally here. This priceless heirloom, made from recycled copper from the messenger's home, is now available at sajdahouse.com.
Greetings from National Network View. This week's Final Call cover story headline is dedicated to a good man and his good works. Longtime Chicago pastor and activist Father Michael Pfleger has worked tirelessly on behalf of poor and disenfranchised residents for decades in the face of opposition and trials. He continues to fearlessly fight and press ahead for the most vulnerable communities. This FCN volume number 37 edition middle page article is a message by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan entitled, "We Must Depend on Allah and Ourselves." To read more, subscribe to finalcalldigital.com and tune in to the all-new Final Call Radio. This is the NNVnews.com Final Call Cover Report.
Please make sure you leave your comments and questions in the comment section below. Follow us on Facebook, National Network View, and make sure to check us out on Twitter as well, National Network View. This is Sergio Gutierrez with National Network View, signing off.